ice on it, then chop, 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 then go in the house to get warm. He could do 2 feet at a time until he could finally get enough area to stand on.
Get your skates.
Yeah.
That's what it was like this morning. Skates. We needed them.
My daughter phones me this morning. She was on her way to visit one of her families. And I said, well, where is it? She said, well, it's Red Bay, but she had to go down 2 miles down an unmaintained road. And I'm like, maybe you should think about that. She goes, well, I'm on my way. I'm just driving slow. So anyway, she called me at noon hour and said, well, I turned around at Shallow Lake. She goes, by the time I got there, I would have had to turn around to go back anyway for another appointment. So we'll reschedule.
Okay, I've got 3 o'clock.
Yep. 3. Okay. Welcome, everyone. We are here today together to learn about proposals for a minor variance to the zoning bylaw and applications for consent applying to certain lands in the municipality of Meaford. I'll start by introducing members of this Committee of Adjustment and staff. I'm Linda Van Alsten. I'm the acting chair for today's meeting. Our chair, Deborah Young, sent regrets. We also have Terry Williams, Lynn Whitbeck, and Ed Ormsby, who are members of this committee. Our planning staff in attendance include Denise McCarl, Manager of Development Services, and Helena Fascinetto, who is the Secretary, Treasurer, and Development Services Assistant. While this committee is legally required to make decisions that conform to the county and local official plans, the Planning Act and municipal policy and procedures encourage us to reach out to you, members of this community, to hear your thoughts about the proposed applications. Your constructive comments will help us to learn more about your neighborhood, which in turn will help us to make informed decisions. Those who have pre-registered for today's meetings will have an opportunity to speak. You do not have to be solely in support or opposition. It is okay to share your thoughts about those elements that you do and don't like about the proposal, and to ask questions as well. While the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to questions and comments raised, in some cases, we may need to have staff carry out research on the matters raised and provide answers or additional information to you following the meeting. Anyone who wishes to receive notice of any decision on any of the applications being heard today will need to contact the Secretary Treasurer by email at planning@meaford.ca or by phone at 519-538-1060, extension 1127, to have their contact information added to the file for future notices. We would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. We also recognize the Métis, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. We extend our gratitude to all Anishinaabe and Métis people. Let me try that again. Anishinaabe and the Métis people and their descendants, past, present, and future, who continue to care for and inhabit these lands and tend these waters.
Disclosure. Pecuniary.
Sorry?
So move item 2.
Item 2. Good. You have to excuse me because I don't normally do this. I'm usually sitting over there and somebody else is doing all this work. Is there a disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll go to item number 3, the land acknowledgement. I did that right. And the adoption of the previous minutes. Can I have a mover? Seconder, Lynn, Terry. Any discussion regarding the minutes? Thank you. Seeing none. All in favor? Do I vote as chair? Okay. All right, we'll move into our first public meeting. This is say 122.
Yes.
This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for minor variance under Section 45 of the Planning Act, Concession 11, North Part, Lot 15, known municipally as 145-166 16 Sideroad in the former Township of St. Vincent, now in the municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 10 days' notice as prescribed by Ontario Regulation 200/96 to the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we had at least 10 days' notice.
Yep, so this notice was published on February 14th, 2022, giving the required 10 days notice.
Thank you. Helena, will you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
So application A01 2022, just to give a brief summary. So the existing zoning bylaw 60-2009, as amended by bylaw 2021-62, permits a small-scale tourist establishment on the subject lands consisting of a maximum of 8 all-season geodesic dome structures, each having a maximum floor area of 37 meters squared. Application A01 2022 requests relief to increase the permitted floor area of each dome by 3 meters to a maximum floor area of 40 meters squared per approved dome unit. This relief is being requested to reflect the size of domes now available from the manufacturer. All other requirements of the zoning bylaw would continue to apply, including but not limited to a maximum number of 8 domes, and that each dome shall be rented to a maximum of 2 persons at any one time. So for comments received, Grey County had generally no concerns with the application. And a nearby resident, Pamela Fulford, provided some comments. She had questions regarding the need for larger domes and the capacity of the larger structures to accommodate more than 2 people. And that's all for comments received.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the planner? Denise, any additional comments regarding the file?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So firstly, thanks for introducing me, and it's a pleasure to be here. I think I was at our meeting as a ghost last meeting, so I'm glad I get to be here in person, and also you can see me. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things because the applicant's agent is also here to explain this application in more detail, so I don't want to duplicate that. But there's a couple of things I wanted to mention, and one of them is that the exemption that is being noted in the decision and the recommendation that you have before you is something that I believe this committee did a few months ago. So under the Planning Act, there is a 2-year freeze basically on minor variances to a new zoning bylaw or a zoning bylaw amendment, where you have to get council's permission to apply to do a variance. And so we're going to be asking for council's permission just because of the timing of this one. We're going to be asking for that on Monday, February 28th. So it will be a tight turnaround, and I believe that is what was requested last time as well. So it was kind of a bit of a retroactive thing. So if council approves that exemption, then things will proceed normally for this application. And if it doesn't, then there would be no status in this application. I hope that makes sense. Basically, it's very similar to what happened a few months ago. And I think probably the committee will remember that one. It was sort of a committee decision and then council decision right away.
Thank you. Has each member of the committee visited the subject lands, and does any member of the committee have a comment with respect to their site visit or with respect to the application? No questions? No. Okay, I will now call upon members of the public present who wish to make comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning.
Through that. Thank you. My name is Kristen Rennie. I'm from Georgian Planning Solutions, and I'm the agent acting on behalf of the property owners. I do have a presentation, so I don't know if you've seen it, but it's behind you.
I think.
Oh, I get control there. There we go. So the purpose of the public meeting this evening, or it's not this evening, this afternoon, is to consider minor variance A02-2022. Confused, yesterday was the second day of the second month of 2022, lots of twos. The intent is to increase the permitted floor area of the approved domes by 3 meters squared. The notice mentioned the property location. I won't read. The county official plan and the Meaford official plan designate the property rural. Both of those official plans permit accommodation uses such as the rental cabin establishments. There was a site-specific zoning approved to permit a small-scale tourist establishment, and that was in July of 2020. It was appealed by the neighbors, and the OLT issued a decision July 5th, 2021 to approve the use and the zoning that was proposed. Site plan approval was also granted, and a site plan agreement has been executed. So again, the minor variance is to seek relief from the site-specific zoning bylaw 2021-62 that permits a small-scale tourist establishment consisting of a maximum of 8 all-season geodesic domes, each having a maximum floor area of 37 meters squared. The minor variance before you today would facilitate an increase in the permitted floor area by 3 meters squared to a maximum of 40 meters squared per dome. And I also just wanted to note that the proposal in front of you has no change to any of the other zoning approvals. It will still be limited to 2 guests per unit. There's no change in the location of the domes that are on the site plan that was approved. No additional parking is required. The deck that supports the domes will not change in size, and there's no impact on the grading and drainage approvals. So the reason for the requested variance is based on not being able to source the geodesic domes originally proposed. Based on the unexpected approval timelines and COVID, the model proposed is no longer available, and a slightly larger unit is in production and still allows the owner to accommodate the planned interior layout and design without any major modifications. So just an illustration. So the square it would be the deck in which the domes would be placed, and it's just illustrating the change in the size. I'll note that it says 39.6 meters squared. 40 meters is rounding it up just to allow for some flexibility based on interpretation of the drawings of the domes. This is the site plan. There'll be no change to the site plan at all. This is a minor variance. I did address the 4 tests of the minor variance as part of my planning justification report. I'm more than happy to go through those points if necessary, if the committee thinks they would like to hear that. So I'll leave that up to you.
Thank you. Does anyone on the committee have any questions? Lynn?
So you can still fit the dome on the deck without increasing it. Is that going to impact your layout of the deck or?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
So it was just extra space then.
Yeah, although it's a dome, so the space isn't really that much more space. It's just that's the size of the availability of the dome, the geodesic dome.
Okay, so what are we talking about here? Like 15 feet across, 10 feet across?
The original ones were 22 feet, I believe, and this one would be 24.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone virtually?
We have one.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Hello? Yes, hello?
There is someone there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Resident Patrick Curtis.
Sorry?
I'm a resident Patrick Curtis.
Okay.
He may be speaking.
Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello, can anyone hear me? Hello?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure what's happening with Zoom, so I'm on my phone as well. I'm just going to turn on the speaker here. Okay, so I've just, one second. Okay, so I'm just using my phone. Hello, you can hear me all right, is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so yeah, I did talk to Scott from Back 40 Glamping about what the changes are. 2 points. One is that he has mentioned to me his agreement to put a term and condition onto the title of the property that would limit the number of users to number of guests per dome to 2 for any subsequent buyer of that property. And that's a very important thing, as the domes are bigger and could accommodate more people. So we talked about that, and I'm sure Scott will mention that later when he speaks, excuse me. The second, so that's very important, is just to ensure that if someone new is coming along to buy the property, that when they buy it, it says on title that this is a tourist establishment, and that it limits the 8 domes, and it limits it can be rented to a maximum of 2 people at any one time. So that's one thing that I'd like the Committee of Adjustment to please ensure is followed up on. The second thing is, and I forgot to ask Scott this question, but I'll put it out now. The other domes, one of the concerns people had was that the ceiling of the domes was going to be clear, and so you would have lights shooting up at night. And Scott at the time, and the application at the time, indicated that the ceilings of the domes would be solid material, so that they would not, in fact, be spotlights, at night. So I just wanted to confirm that this new dome is going to have that textile over the top as well. Thank you very much.
And can you state your name, please?
Oh, my name is Patrick Curtis. I'm a neighbor.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to this? I guess I have a question though.
I think she can answer the question on the covering.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would like to address the comments just to clarify. There is an agreement that was entered into that identify those points that the neighbor addressed, and it is registered on title in terms of the number of people that can utilize the space and the number of domes. So there's no concern there should be no concern that would change. And in terms of the domes, they are not fully open. They're like a solid material, so that they wouldn't have any issue related to the light comment that was made.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Okay. Lena, please provide us with the suggested decisions and the conditions of the variance.
So the suggested decision for AO1 2022 would read, being that the 4 tests have been satisfied, the committee hereby approves a variance to zoning bylaw 60-2009 as amended to provide relief from provision 9.272 of bylaw 60-2009 as amended to 1, increase the permitted floor area of each dome by 3 meters to a maximum floor area of 40 meters squared per approved dome unit, subject to the following conditions. 1, the Council of the Municipality of Meaford approve an exemption pursuant to section 45 1.4 of the Planning Act to allow the Committee of Adjustment to grant a decision on minor variance A01-2022. 2, confirmation that a site plan agreement has been executed and all securities thereunder posted if required, and said site plan agreement has been registered on title to the lands prior to the establishment of any tourist establishment on the lands or issuance of a building permit for such use to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services. And 3, all other requirements of the zoning bylaw including section 9.272, continue to apply.
Thank you. I will now call on, for a motion on the decision. I need a mover. Ed, second, Lynn, thank you. Any discussion about the motion before we vote? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Now, are there, I know Deborah always asks you what the next steps are. That's not on my list here.
Yep, so Kristen, notice of decision will go out following the meeting. It is dependent on council's decision on Monday, but it will begin the 20-day appeal period.
Okay. Thank you. We'll now go to the second meeting on our agenda. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider a validation certificate under Section 57 of the Planning Act, part of Lot 19, Judge's Plan 541, Part 1 of Reference Plan 16R-3189, except Part 3 of the Reference Plan 16R-5470, Geographic Township of St. Vincent. Denise, are there any comments regarding the file?
So these validations are always really interesting and really more of a legal exercise than a planning one. I went through my report and looked at it the way we look at most validations, and I don't have any concerns. However, if there was a fuller explanation requested by the committee, I would suggest that the applicant's lawyer provide that, who I believe is on the call or is calling in virtually, who could probably explain any of those legal matters that you are wondering about. As with most of these, we've asked the lawyer to provide a validation certificate draft that we can use to ensure that it actually does do the cure that we're hoping would happen as part of a validation certificate. So if we're not creating it, the lawyer has created it for us and for your consideration, if that makes sense. So in this case, it's not an attempt to, recreate lots through a severance process. It's to fix an issue with title where something happened through the rules being broken, if you will, under the Planning Act in terms of how it got transferred or not transferred. And in this case, these lands have been considered for some time as just separately assessed parcels. And we actually had no idea that they weren't separately conveyable lots.
Okay, thank you. Has each member of the committee visited the subject lands, and do they have any comment with respect to their visit? Seeing none. I don't see any members of the public present. Do we have any virtually? No?
I believe we have one
One?
lawyer for the file.
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me? It's Jennifer.
Yes, please state your name.
Hi, Jennifer Tour. I'm the lawyer for the current landowners.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm not sure if there are any questions on sort of the legalities that Denise had described. I think she's done a wonderful job on her description here in the report she submitted. And we'd worked with your town solicitor to make sure that he was also happy with sort of the process that we've gone through here. So just from a high level, what's happened on this particular lot is that in 1983, there was a severance approval to split these into separate parcels. And then through the widening of a road allowance that took place, it actually, by virtue of application just of the Planning Act and some of those wonky Planning Act provisions, caused the two properties to remerge at law on title. So this validation certificate is just asking for this committee to recognize that original severance application and to split them back into two properties. And I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Does any member of the committee have any questions for Jennifer? No? Okay, thank you. Helena, please provide us with the suggested decision for the certificate of validation.
Yep. So the suggested decision will read, in the matter of section 57 of the Planning Act, and in the matter of an application to the Committee of Adjustment received from the owner of the property described as part of Lot 19, Judge's Plan 541, Part 1 of Reference Plan 16R-3189, except Part 3 of Reference Plan 16R-5470 in the former Township of St. Vincent. The committee, having regard to the requirement of Section 5124 of the Planning Act 1990 and consistency with the provincial policies, it is the decision of the committee that a certificate of validation be issued for the following reasons. This decision is rendered having had regard to the provisions for subsection 5124 of the Planning Act as amended.
Thank you. I'll now call for a motion on the decision as read by the Secretary Treasurer. Can I have a mover? Terry, second Lynn. Any discussion on the motion? Call for the vote. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed. And that's all I see on the agenda, except the next meeting. There is no other business. Okay, so our next meeting is tentatively March 23rd at 3 o'clock here. Okay, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.